Good morning. Welcome to the Cohn Zone. That's Lowell Cohn. I'm Grant Cohn. The title of today's show is Do the 49ers Miss Adam Peters? It's a draft show. This is our first show since the 49ers made some surprising picks this weekend. So we're going to look big picture and wonder if we're seeing the absence of Adam Peters, who's now the GM with the Washington Commanders. But first, we're going to start with the particular and then move outward from there. Start with the first round pick. And we're going to take ourselves back to the moment that it happened. You were in your house. I was in the Niners media facility, and we were both not expecting this.
Okay, why don't you set the scene in the press room, and why don't you describe what the press room was like with no windows and the whole thing?
Okay, yeah. So it's sort of underground. Floor level, ground level is the second floor at Levi's. We're on the first floor, which is underground, and it's on the same level as the field. And it's a big rectangle. There are no windows. There are 4 rows of cubicles, and there are televisions. And it's a very neon-y type of room. So we're all working. We're all in our little cubicle, and the Niners are on the clock. No one really knows who they're going to take. Someone in the media room says that they're going to take Cooper DeJean, the DB from Iowa. And there's a little chatter around the room, like, "Oh, okay, that's a good move. That's a pretty good pick." I was going to give it an A+. I was so surprised. And then a couple minutes later, maybe 3 minutes later, we're here. Actually, no, Ricky Pearsall. And then the room gets very quiet. Not like laughing or oh, that was really good. Just very, very quiet, trying to figure out what happened and maybe who this guy is.
So it went from high anticipation to like, what the heck?
Yes.
Being dumbfounded.
Dumbfounded.
Okay. Here's my story. I was in I sleep in sweat clothes. I was in my sweat clothes. I didn't do anything all day. And I was lying in bed reading. I'm reading a series called The Dublin Murder Squad, and I like it a lot. And the draft, I don't know. It's interesting, the picks, but the whole program is really boring. There's a pick, and then they celebrate, and then you talk to the mother, you talk to the father. He's a high character guy. He overcame adversity. And I don't want to know that. I just want to know the pick. So when I see that the pick is coming, I turn the sound on. But I know I got 10 minutes after that. And plus, the Niners weren't going to 31, and they didn't trade up, as opposed to what certain people said. So I basically was reading all day, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'd watch for 10 seconds here, but then it's getting closer to 31. So I turned the sound on, and I'm expecting something really exciting, okay? And I actually said to myself, the one thing I know is they're not going to draft a wide receiver with the first pick because they're loaded. And when they said Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver, I actually looked at the TV like, maybe there was a mistake. Maybe I heard it wrong. And then they said he was a wide receiver. I almost fell out of the bed because it from my point of view, it was the stupidest possible pick. And I'm using that word stupid, and I mean it. I don't mean that John Lynch and Kyle are stupid. The pick was stupid. Why was the pick stupid? Because they didn't need a wide receiver at that point. There were so many other pressing needs. Offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Linebacker.
Yeah. Defensive lineman. I mean, anything.
Defensive line. Anything.
Cornerback, safety.
Anything. And here they go where they got a lot of good guys, and they didn't trade away Deebo Samuel or Brandon Aiyuk. So I just felt it was extra. It's a kind of pick you take in the 4th round. And it made me think, oh my God, who is running? I even wrote, is a 5-year-old running this draft? That's what I thought, Iggy. And what's more, I thought it set the tone for the whole draft.
Well, you said it's the kind of pick you make in the 4th round. What's incredible about it is they drafted a wide receiver in the 4th round. The question is, why do they have to take one in round 1 as well when it's not a need? It's just not. In fact, it's one of the strongest positions on the team. People could say, well, next year they might need one. then get a damn wide receiver next year.
Right.
What the draft is for next year. Oh, but you had to get one because Kyle Shanahan's system is so complicated. It takes so long to teach it. Well, simplify your damn system. You scored 9 points in regulation in the Super Bowl. How good is it?
Yeah, now Eric Branch in the Chronicle had a very good article. He showed, I thought, intelligently and systematically, that the draft that largely was not for this season, but for the 2025 season. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Your players, your core players are getting old, just like the Warriors. They're a year or two behind the Warriors, right?
Yes.
Your core players are getting old. You need to do stuff. Look, the left tackle, he's getting old. You need to be developing a tackle. You don't need another wide receiver. It was stupid. I would have to say stupid. And Iggy, you have another point which is more important. Please bring that up.
Well, to me, it's a Kyle Shanahan pick, and it represents Shanahan not understanding why they lost the Super Bowl. Like it sort of indicates that he thinks they lost because their wide receivers couldn't get open. When that's part of the reason they lost, but it's not the main reason they lost the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl because they lost in the trenches. They got bullied by the Chiefs. The Niners couldn't run the ball. They were a run-first team with Christian McCaffrey. He looked ordinary, averaged 3.5 yards a carry and fumbled. He wasn't effective, and they couldn't protect Brock Purdy. He was under instant pressure a lot from people who weren't even blocked. That's why they lost. The Chiefs were tougher than them. The Niners weren't tough enough. And that's why they lost the Super Bowl. And the fact that they added another wide receiver, he doesn't make them tougher. They're a finesse team. Every time they lost last year, they faced a team that was tougher than them, and they got beat up. The Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chiefs, AFC teams that are flat out tougher than the 49ers. The Niners thought they were great. They were the best team in the NFC, a really weak conference that's getting better now. But they lost to the Browns' third-string quarterback. Browns just beat them up. Bengals came to the 49 to Santa Clara and made the Niners look terrible on their home field, and so did the Ravens. So they misjudged their own team. They have an issue of toughness, not route running.
Right, and they are a finesse team, and that'll only get you so far. It'll get you to do well in the NFC, although maybe not the upcoming season. But it shows that Kyle did not learn from the Super Bowl. And I want to say something, Iggy. I don't think he learns from, I'm going to call it failure. Failed in the Super Bowl. They lost. So it's a strong word, but I don't have a better one right now. He doesn't learn from failure. Failure can teach you things. The first pick showed he didn't learn anything. And, I have to say, the more I'm exposed to him and his coaching and his thinking, the less I think of him, Iggy. I'm not particularly impressed by him as a coach. And that first pick influenced everything they did. I was lying in bed in my sweats. I'm thinking, what they don't need is they don't need a wide receiver, and they don't need a running back. They got 3 really good running backs. And then they picked the running back. And they didn't pick ever a tackle. Even when they went on the offensive line, Iggy, they picked guards. And here's the thing about it. They picked a lot of players that won't even play this season. What the hell? What the hell kind of draft is that?
Also, they got a 4th-string wide receiver. It's like what the Niners did when they drafted A.J. Jenkins. I think he'll be better than A.J. Jenkins. But they drafted A.J. Jenkins, and they acknowledged he's not really going to play this year. He's going to sit on the bench. We got Randy Moss, Michael Crabtree, Mario Manningham. Is that how you really want to introduce your first-round pick to your team, by just sitting him? Like the Chiefs, who are better than the 49ers, they drafted a wide receiver in round 1 as well. They traded up for the guy, and he looks like the next Deshaun Jackson. He's going to start for them. He's going to be really good. The Niners got and they needed him. They absolutely needed a wide receiver. They filled a need and they traded up to get a guy they love. The Niners just waited and got a guy that no other team would have drafted in round 1. No other team would have done it.
Iggy, had you ever heard of that Pearsall?
Yeah, I'd heard of him. Everyone had heard of him. He was supposed to get drafted in round 2 or round 3. And there's a quarterback for the Texans, CJ Stroud, was doing like a live stream with Micah Parsons during the draft. And when the Niners took Pearsall, he like fell out of his chair and said how much he liked Pearsall and that he was hoping that the Texans would get him. But he says he was hoping the Texans would get him in round 2. I think the whole league was really surprised that Pearsall went that early.
Yeah, the Niners have a history, this bunch, of really not doing well with the first pick.
It's what they do because they reach. And this time they reached for a player who didn't even fill a need. That's what's made it so weird.
What would you have taken in the first round?
I would have taken Cooper DeJean, the cornerback who went to the Eagles, and Vic Fangio. So Fangio liked him. I liked him. Thought he would have been. He can also return punts. He can also play safety. He can play nickel. Any corner at that spot would have been better, or they could have taken a defensive lineman. They could have traded up. Like the Cowboys picked a couple of spots ahead of them and took an offensive tackle who's going to be their starting left tackle this year. The Niners could have traded up a few spots like the Chiefs did if they were convicted about a player. I didn't hear him say that this year, Dad. I think you got to him.
I think, they shouldn't be convicted in the way John Lynch says. They should be convicted for taking that Pearsall in the first round. Iggy, I'm going to say something else. I'm sorry. I know you people are fans and Lowell's a jerk. I thought it was a joke pick. It was a Saturday Night Live pick.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I'm not saying he'll be a bad player. I don't know what he'll be. He might be a fine player down the line, but if you're not going to use him this year, and if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, and they don't play their first round pick either, then that's a missed opportunity. You had an opportunity to go trade up and get. They lost by a few points in overtime. They could be one player away from winning the Super Bowl. You missed an opportunity to get that one player who could help you now.
Yeah. And they're not playing for 2025.
No.
They're not drafting. Their window, which is getting smaller, is now. In 2 years, who the hell knows?
And you know what's funny? This is the same mistake they made with Trey Lance.
Yeah, they did.
We got a first round pick. This is really important. We got a guy, but he's not for now. Don't worry. We're going to win the Super Bowl, and we're going to develop this guy for the future. Now, I'm not saying Pearsall needs to be developed, but that's what they did. We got a Super Bowl team and this other team that we're building on the side for the future. We're going to be the best team on 2 timelines. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Kyle, I got to tell you, I'm sort of laughing. Okay. How else are we going to address this draft?
Well, let's take a couple of supers first. Ryan Kessler says, finish your book, Papa Cohn. Loved it. Especially the chapter about wine with Bochy and Steve Young with Grant.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. That little episode of Steve Young with Grant, how old were you then, sweetie?
7.
It was so sweet. It was so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. Fish and Chips, after finishing the book's TV series, is good also.
Oh, the Dublin Murder Squad. Thanks, Fish and Chips. I didn't know. I don't watch much TV these days, although I pay a lot for it. Thank you.
Oside Guy 79 says, reached for 2 picks, then had to use multiple picks later to move up and get substandard players, traded up to get IG instead of Jalen W. Traded up to get Isaac Garendo instead of Jalen W. Yeah, they should have traded up in rounds 1 and 2 instead of rounds 3 and 4. It just seemed kind of weird. Now you like players a lot. Now you found players you absolutely have to have in round 3 and 4. But in round 1 and round 2, you're like, we can take it early. It's like, I don't know. I don't think Isaac Garendo and Dominic Pooney are going to make that big of a difference this year or any difference. You and I both gave this grade a C. This draft, a C grade independently.
Right. We didn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
We didn't talk to each other about it. I gave it a C because I think they need to push to win the Super Bowl this coming season.
Mhm.
That's all that matters. And I'm going to even say something else. That's all that exists. Realistically, that's all that exists. And I felt, even though they made a few good picks, which we'll talk about later, they did nothing, and I mean nothing, to help their cause in the 2024 season.
Yeah.
And as a result, even though I felt some of their choices were good, overall strategy was not good. And Iggy, I'm going to do this now. I was not at any of the news conferences. Obviously, I'm not credentialed anymore. But Kyle said, and this is a paraphrase, correct me if I'm wrong, Iggy. He says, in front of everybody, which means it's being broadcast, the whole nation, we didn't make ourselves worse. Isn't that what he said? Something like that?
That's essentially what he said. I'll get the direct quote in a second. I'll get it right now. He said, hopefully I don't think we did get worse. Hopefully I don't think we did get worse. Yeah.
Hold on. Hopefully a qualifier. I don't think a qualifier. We didn't get worse. Now look, can you imagine Andy Reid, Bill Walsh, George Seifert saying, hopefully I don't think we didn't get worse? That's like a surrender. Yeah. It's a surrender. What you're supposed to say is, we kicked butt and we got better.
Yeah.
That's the best he can say. We didn't get worse. How is that a way to defend all of the work the scouts did, all the millions of dollars you put in to this exercise? Hopefully, I think we didn't get worse.
There's more.
Okay.
There's more in the same thing. He said earlier in the quote, he says, there's not a lot of room to do better. He really said that. I'll give you the full quote. He goes, I think when you get close to a Super Bowl and you don't win, there's always more pressure, especially from outside, because you're going to hear about it more. So I think everyone has a certain expectation for the season and things like that, because you always want to do better the next year. And there's not a lot of room to do better. He really said that. Like,
the Chiefs did better.
They had it. That was it. Like, the Chiefs found a way to do better.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are two-time success, season after season champions. They got better. What are you talking about? What it was is, he's waving the white flag. He's crying uncle. We didn't get worse. That's, hey, you go to your first team meeting. Hey, guys, let's huddle up here. Let's huddle up. I want to tell you, I'm so excited. Guys, I am so excited for the upcoming season. And want to know why? We didn't get worse. Oh, wow. Thanks, coach. We're going to kick butt.
Hold on. I have a question in the back, me in the back. So why does that mean we're going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Because we should have won it last year. And just think that we did win it.
The Niners act like winning the Super Bowl is nice, but it's not everything.
Hey,
yeah, I mean, do we want to win the Super Bowl? Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like a parade? I love a trophy. Champagne is nice, but I mean, it doesn't define you. Yes, it absolutely does. We're still great. No, you're not. Not until you have a championship.
Iggy, that we didn't get worse quote. I want to say it's a classic of Western civilization.
It's so good. But it also explains why they were so modest with their draft, because the goal was just to not get worse. The goal wasn't, we're not good enough. We're very good, but we're not good enough. And the Chiefs are going to get better. And we have to find a way to get better. Their goal was, let's just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So on his tombstone, Kyle Shanahan, it should say, at least, we didn't get worse. The man who didn't get worse.
Yeah, it's like Napoleon said that at Waterloo. Yeah, but we didn't get worse. They were just better than us today. We were still great. Could we have been better? Hard to say. Hard to do better than what we've been doing. Yeah, we lost, and I'm going to be exiled. But
we didn't get worse.
We didn't get worse.
We didn't get worse. Hey.
Yeah. It's essentially Ray McLeod's fault that I'm no longer in charge of France. It's his fault.
I have to say, I don't know Kyle Shanahan, but I've had so much fun with him. The man who didn't get worse.
He didn't get worse, Dad. You got to give him a standing ovation for that. David E says, "Why are you so sure Pearsall won't play this year? He adds needed speed if so." Well,
Good.
I mean, maybe they'll trade Deebo Samuel and he'll play, but saving that, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, they got these other guys that paying a lot of money. They're going to sit down Deebo Samuel for some guy on a rookie contract? Come on.
I don't think so. So he might beat out Jawan Jennings to be the number 3 receiver, although Jawan was really good in the playoffs. But even if he does do that, Jawan caught 19 passes last year. So where's the impact coming? Be the number 3 receiver on this team. That's a game changer. David E. Chris Tallarico says, not only was wide receiver not a position of need, but he wasn't even best player available. Baffling draft strategy top to bottom.
That's what I felt.
Well, it's not what Adam Peters would have done. Dimitrov says the problem are not the Chiefs only. Super Bowls can go either way, but the run defense is a problem. Watch the Green Bay and Detroit games again. Look at our division. The problem is to get into the Super Bowl at all. Yeah, let's stay there for a second and talk about they didn't improve their run defense. They didn't improve their team. And not only did the Chiefs get better, but the whole division got better and the conference got better.
Oh, let's talk about the division. All right.
Yeah, let's talk about the division.
For example, the 49ers were the best team in the division last season, basically because the division stunk. I still think they're the best team in the division, but not by as much as last season. Let's go to Arizona. Arizona stunk. Yeah. Arizona, first, that quarterback, I don't know about that quarterback, but he can do things.
We're going to find out this year. We're going to find out this year about that quarterback.
But Arizona, I would say Iggy had a hell of a draft.
A lot of people think they had the best draft.
A lot of people think they had the best draft.
Yeah.
So, again, it used to be, those 2 wins. Those are 2 wins. You look at the schedule. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's 1-1. Yeah. It'll be more competitive than it was. And the game when they came here and they had, what's his face? The
Dobbs.
Pastrinaud. That was a pretty close game with him.
It was.
And with
with Kyler Murray, we've always kind of written him off like he's not really serious about his craft. We felt the same way about Baker Mayfield. Mayfield had a pretty mature professional season last year in his mid-20s. We'll see if Kyler Murray can do that too. He came off an injury last year. He was decent down the stretch, and now he finally has a legitimate wide receiver. So if he's got anything, he'll show it this year.
Yeah, so anyway, what I'm saying is Arizona is not going to be a pushover. And the Rams improved last season and also had a good draft, Iggy. Explain how they had a good draft.
Well, they added 2 starters to their defensive line. That's helpful. And then also they drafted a running back in round 3 who was at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. He looks really good. Blake Corum. He looks really good. And so he joins their backfield. And now they have the ability to run the ball more effectively than they've been able to do in years. And it seems like when they can run the ball, they're tough to beat. They also have 2 of the best wide receivers in football, in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and a very good quarterback and a good offensive line.
I don't take Seattle seriously at this time, but those 2 other teams have improved. So here's what I want to say. Those teams improved and the Niners didn't get worse. So it means those guys got closer to the Niners because the Niners didn't see any reason to improve. Well, and you're saying other NFC teams have improved too.
Packers
like
improved.
Detroit.
They're like the youngest team in the conference. They improved. Detroit improved. They added a big time cornerback in round 1. The Eagles improved. They signed Saquon Barkley this offseason. They added a bunch of starters on defense. They added Vic Fangio. They're going to be tough.
Those serious.
Teams right there. The NFC is last year. The Niners had such an easy road to a Super Bowl. It was the year for them to do it. The NFC was terrible. The Chiefs were worse than they'd been in a while, and they lucked out not having to see the Ravens in the Super Bowl because the Ravens destroyed them. And Joe Burrow was hurt, so the Bengals fell apart, and they still didn't win the Super Bowl. Now Burrow's back. The Chiefs are better. The NFC's better. It's going to be tougher, but the Niners stayed the same, which means they got worse because their competition got better.
Right. So by not getting worse, they got worse.
Right.
right?
Right.
Kyle, this is logic here. Logic 101.
Yeah.
By not getting worse, you got worse because some
Yes.
of the league got better.
Yes.
You got me? Did you write that down?
Write it down.
There's going to be a quiz at the end of this.
This is good stuff. Write this down.
Yeah.
So they're probably still the best team in the NFC West,
but not by as much.
They don't stop the run very well. And the Rams can really run the ball. They got two excellent running backs. The Cardinals can run the ball. Kyler Murray's tough and James Conner's excellent. And the Seahawks don't really matter right now. But one day they might. One day.
But Iggy, explain again what the Chiefs did to the Niners offensive line that the whole league can see now.
Well,
in the Super Bowl.
That's it. I mean, not only did they shut down the Niners run game, but they were able to get pressure on Brock Purdy almost at will. And it seemed like they were able to disguise where the pass rushers were coming from, who was rushing, and they were confusing the 49ers offensive linemen, getting people in Purdy's face unblocked. And the one thing about Seattle, we don't really take them seriously because of their quarterback, but they just fired Pete Carroll, who's stuck in the past, running some of the most vanilla schemes in the league, and hired the defensive coordinator from Baltimore, who kicked the crap out of the 49ers last year. So he schematically is going to be able to do, I mean, he's the one leading the trend of that type of disguised pressure. So the Seahawks are at least going to be able to put up more of a fight defensively when they face the Niners.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's interesting. It's like the Niners have been pretty much the same on offense and defense schematically for the last 4 or 5 years. They haven't changed a whole lot because they don't want to change. They got it all down, Dad. They've got it. And the rest of the league has looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and kind of figuring it out to the point where Chiefs shut it all down in the Super Bowl.
Also, the Niners did not do well against AFC teams, as you pointed out. AFC teams are good. They're a combination, which the Niners used to be when in the Walsh Seifert days, a combination of finesse and power.
Yeah.
These Niners are more, especially on offense, finesse.
Yeah. I mean, their offensive line from center to right tackle is just finesse. It's small. It's not powerful. It's finesse. And then their defensive line, when they had Armstead when he was healthy, and they had Samson Ebukam, they could stop the run. But now that's a soft defensive line that's just dying to give up yards on the ground. And now the Eagles have Saquon Barkley.
He's a heck of a running back.
Yeah, the contenders in the NFC don't have great quarterbacks like they do in the AFC, but there's some teams that can really run the ball. So, Chris Tallarico, how timid is this front office? They don't have more than 3 roster spots for the rookies, and they don't trade up to get the players they needed, nor trade away Brandon Aiyuk or Debo to get the ammo to do so. They want to stay the same, Chris.
Timid is a very good adjective. How about incompetent?
Unimaginative. Chris Tallarico says they wait and wait to pull the trigger on putting players on the block, and once they do, nobody wants them because they're too expensive. It's the Jimmy nonsense all over again. That is true. You want to trade Debo Samuel? You should have done that 2 years ago. Okay. Let's do some sleeper picks before we get into the picks we like. We're going to do positivity. But before we do that, we got to look at the Giants game that starts at 4:10 today.
San Francisco Giants.
The San Francisco Giants, excuse me. For people not watching in the Bay Area. Logan Webb starting. Last time you said he was going to go more than 2.5 runs. 2.5 again. Last time he gave up. He's hot.
Here's the thing. I put him down last time. I said he always gives up 3 runs. I was being flippant. But then I watched his last start. God, was he good. I'm not following the Bo Sox. I love to say Bo Sox, Chi Sox, Red Legs. I love to say stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
I love baseball. Anyway, so what's the bet on him?
The pick, 2.5 earned runs, more or less.
You know, even though that left field is really
a short porch.
Tough one. It's a short porch. I'm going to say fewer runs because I was Fewer. I was wrong about him last time, and here's what I like. He is really a smart pitcher, and God, is he tough. I admire him. So I'm going to say
Fewer.
less.
Yeah, your Stanford education won't allow you to say less in this case.
It's hard.
Jung-Hoo Lee. Jung-Hoo Lee, 1.5 hits. 1.5 hits, 1.5 total bases. Singles. Will he get a single? Half a single.
I'll say he'll at least get a single.
He's good for a single.
He's good for a single to the left side. You know what I mean? He's good for a single.
Let's get also, one single for him.
Iggy, he's a very good center fielder.
Yeah.
And I would add something. I was pretty down on the Giants because they got off to a crummy start, and I don't really believe in their general manager, whatever the hell he is. They were a competitive team. They're not at 500, but they're a competitive team. Bob Melvin has very good starting pitcher. He has a great closer. And he's managing very well so far.
Okay, Matt Chapman, 1.5 strikeouts.
Oh,
2 last game, 3 the game before that.
Yeah, I'd say more. Yeah, more.
He's been a real success.
Here's the thing. He's a great fielder. As far as a hitter, what a disappointment. He's Iggy. The guy looks frozen at the plate.
He just look. What does he do? He just stands there. He's like this.
He's a statue. I don't know what his deal is.
Let's do one NBA pick and then we'll be done.
Okay.
For tonight's game.
Did you see that the Lakers got eliminated?
I did. That's terrible. LeBron. I feel bad. I'm really hoping. LeBron. Okay, Luka Doncic. Triple-double. You think he'll get one?
It's better than triple single.
Triple single?
Who's
I'm saying no.
Single?
That's Draymond.
Yeah, he's triple single. Okay, then let's say
Logan
no.
Webb, Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman, and a Luka Doncic. No for the triple-double.
No for the triple-double.
No, absolutely not. To win 68-60. It's expired. What are you talking about? No, now we're in. Oh, I don't know why. I'll figure it out later. But if you want to play, use promo code Cohn to get a deposit match up to $500 on your first deposit. Okay. Oh, wait a second. Pressing stuff. Okay, so we said the picks we didn't like so much. Now we need to say the picks we like because we didn't give this draft an F or a D or even a C minus.
C is a passing grade.
Right. So what picks did you like? You go first.
You know what? I'll go first. I love that as an undrafted free agent, they took a quarterback. I love it. And you want to know something? I love the quarterback they took. First of all, I think you should take a quarterback every season. And what they did is, instead of getting a Trey Lance type, they got a Brock Purdy type.
Right.
And so they actually learned. And they said, given what our team is and what we need, this kid could do it. And maybe he could end up this season being the third quarterback or even the second quarterback eventually. So I know it's not a draft pick. It's an undrafted free agent. But, I didn't fall out of the bed when I heard about that one. What do you think of that pick, Iggy?
I like it too. It's like at least they're trying to follow the template that led them to Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
The blueprint, whatever. Like they're trying to get the next one. And this guy may not be the same, but he has similar characteristics and he's experienced and he can move around a little bit. And I'm excited to watch him play.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a good one.
Good on you, Kyle.
Undrafted free agent. They always have smart, good undrafted free agents. They're good at that.
It's like the pressure of the first round. They can't live up to it. But when you go among the bargain store, the dollar store, they're pretty good in the dollar store.
The pressure of the first round, the pressure of the Super Bowl. There are some themes, some common patterns here.
Well, I think we could say that Kyle does not stand up to pressure that well.
No. I mean, he can't even stand up to me in the press conference. I'm just kidding. I'm not applying that kind of pressure.
He never had to face me in a press conference.
No. You're tough.
Say, Coach.
Yeah, over here.
Over here, Coach.
All right, more picks we like. The second round pick, Renardo Green, the cornerback. I would have loved an offensive tackle there, but I really like taking a corner in round 2 for the first time in 20 years. I don't know why or when the Niners decided that was something they don't do or can't do, but they should start doing it. It's a very important position, and good ones don't. There aren't that many good ones. Like there are a million good wide receivers. There aren't that many good corners. This guy looks like he might be a good one.
I agree. You would have preferred him in the first round over Pearsall?
A different corner in the first round over Pearsall, but if you waited until round 2, this guy looked like he might have been the best one available.
Okay. Iggy, I also like that they took a safety in the draft.
Yeah. Malik Mustafa.
Yeah. I like
He
that.
looks good. He looks good. You got to add players to your secondary, Dad. You got to.
That's how you would have talked in Brooklyn.
You got to do it. Because with Talanoa, you don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back from his injury. He could be no good. He might not come back for a while. And now you got a player just in case.
Okay.
They were looking for a safety all off season. They got one.
Very good. That's crafty.
You got to like that.
Yeah, you got to like it. They were crafty.
Yeah. Other than that, 2 wide receivers, that's 2 more than I would have taken.
A running back?
Trading up for a running back, that should work out. Probably.
Are you being ironic?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've tried that multiple times. Hasn't worked out yet, but this time it will.
Did they trade up for Trey Sermon?
Yes.
How did he work out?
Did they trade up for Joe Williams? Yes.
How did he work out?
Not so good.
And why did they need a running back? They have 3 really. I know Mitchell gets hurt, but Jordan Mason is very good, Iggy.
Yeah. Also, they only used one of them.
It's true.
You only use Christian McCaffrey. You don't even use Debo anymore as a running back. So what are you adding more ones for? So you know what he's going to be? They traded up for a kick returner.
Oh.
Cool. Hey.
Well, but they didn't get worse.
No. Also, the linebacker, their last pick, Tatum Bethune. Great name, great prospect. Better name.
Okay. Great name, Bethune.
Great name. Tatum Bethune. I like to say it.
It's the hard U at the end.
It's the hard U for sure.
Yeah, I like it. So those were good picks. What I seem to think I see with the Niners, and I'm going to talk about this for a minute. I don't think they had a good overall strategy, but they can make occasional good picks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but they don't have an overall strategy. They're not. It's like, what are we trying to do? That's how Kyle coaches.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an overall strategy, but he can call good plays.
Yeah.
Again, if he had an overall strategy, he could have closed out the Chiefs in the second half of the Super Bowl. But he was just calling some good plays, just like he drafted some good players. But he didn't have a strategy. How do I close out the game? I got 30 minutes to go and I got a lead. He's not thinking like that. He thinks in snippets, in particulars, not in the big picture. He doesn't. Iggy, I never met him, but I have the feeling in terms of football, he's not really, really bright. He may be a very bright man, but in terms of football, he's not really bright. And I'll give an example of someone different. Joe Montana, I always felt, was a pretty bright guy. If you tested him, he would be maybe a little above average. I never felt that he had tremendously deep insight into things. But put him on a football field, he was as bright as Bill Walsh.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Sometimes he would criticize to the other players Bill Walsh's offense because he knew it just as well. He was a genius as Bill on the 49ers offense. Off the field, no. I wouldn't call him a genius. On the field, he's one of the smartest players in any sport I ever met. I don't think it translates to Shanahan. I think he is not a genius, but an ordinary thinker when it comes to strategy. It's like a general in an army. Eisenhower had to have a whole view of what they were going to do on D-Day, not like we're going to do with this particular place.
Well, I think what Kyle likes to do is he wants to get a big lead in the first half, and then there's nothing the other team can really do in the second half, and that takes away the game situation. I can call whatever the hell I want in the first quarter. I can just call plays, the plays I like the most, try to get a 2-3 score lead, and then there's nothing you can do. But in the Super Bowl, he only had a 10-point lead, and then it was a 3-point lead. And he really had to be smart about using the clock and running the ball. And that's not what he does. In the NFC Championship game, he fell behind by a lot and he had to pass to come back. But that situation where they're up by a little bit, that's a tough one for him because you got to be smart and prudent, and he's not.
And Iggy, in the second half, especially in the third quarter, didn't he at certain points go 3 and out?
A bunch of times in a row, and he passed a lot. And I asked him after the game why he banned the run, and he said, I didn't.
Yeah, I love that. But the point is, you don't want to go 3 and out. You want to, the clock is your ally. Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
and it's going 3 and out with them passing the ball. They're stopping the clock for the other team.
Right. They're calling timeouts for the other team. So what I want to say, he drafts and he calls plays the same way. He has occasional success, but he does not have a brilliant overview of what he's doing. That's how I feel about him.
I agree. Adam Gardner says, Grant, please go watch all of Slick Rick Pearsall's college career tapes, then come back and say he's not a good pick or he won't play much this year.
No one said he's not a good player. Yeah. He may be a very good player. They didn't need him in the first round.
They did not need him in the first round.
How good Slick Rick is. They didn't need him in the first round.
Also, you can't call him Slick Rick yet, okay? You can't call him that. He hasn't earned that nickname yet. I just won't allow it. Javier Sierra says, ask your dad if he's watching Canelo fight on Saturday, LOL.
You know, I don't watch the contemporary guys very much. I've seen Canelo fight. I love him. I won't watch the fight, but I love Canelo. He has everything I want. He lost to Mayweather, but Mayweather's a stinker. Everybody loses to Mayweather because he doesn't really fight. I love Canelo.
Oside Guy 79 says Green had just 1 interception in over 50 starts.
There's that.
And that's why you want to take corners earlier in the draft. Because if they're good, they're not going to be there at pick 63-4. Fish and chips. Find your inner Lowell Cohn and pressers next season.
Oh, Iggy's pretty good. He's pretty good.
My real name says Grant should go into next press conferences with accent and disguise. Over here. Jad says, to be honest, this front office and coaching staff feels incredibly out of touch and arrogant. Trying to not get worse is a loser mentality bad look.
I agree.
Joshua Wyatt, we predicted Kyle would waste a couple of picks trading up for a shiny toy at running back. What's missing is the backup plan running back. That's the guy who works out. Well, the undrafted free agent from Missouri. Dimitar Dimitrov says, why did they pick Kingston when Bo Limmer was still on the board? Kyle has too much systematic strategy. He doesn't have tactics. He can't react. He's never in the moment.
Oh, I think he's never in the moment. I love that. I think in the second half of really big games, he's not in the moment. He's not saying, what do I have to do now? He's saying, hey, what's a fun play?
What's a fun play?
What's a fun play?
So the title of the show, again, we made you wait. Do the Niners miss Adam Peters? Let's look at what Adam Peters did in just the draft. You won't even look at what he did in free agency. But let's compare what the Niners did, that's what we've been talking about today, to what Adam Peters did in the draft. And I'll get their draft on the screen here. Okay,
look
at the top. You like that? You like that? Okay, here we go. So they took a quarterback first. The Niners weren't picking that high, but then they had their next pick was at 36. The Niners were at 31. The Niners took a wide receiver they didn't need. The Commanders took a defensive tackle who was supposed to go in round 1 and just dropped. So did they need a defensive tackle? No, not particularly. They have a couple starters, but they got the best player available at a premium position. His name is, they call him Johnny Newton. 36. So that's what he did. He went defensive line. Then at 50, he took a corner. Mike Saintsville from Michigan. Then he took a tight end. Niners didn't take a tight end. They got no tight ends. Then he took a guard at 67, about 20 picks before the Niners got their guard. And then with the final pick in round 3, they took a wide receiver. Luke McCaffrey, Christian's brother, Ed's son. So they got a wide receiver too. but they waited until the end of round 3. And who's to say, Dad, who's to say which wide receiver will be better, McCaffrey or Pearsall?
It seems like, look, first of all, Washington had a lot more needs than the 49ers, but it seemed that he really had a plan, and he was very aggressive in what he did. And it makes you wonder, was he the brains behind the Niners drafts? Now, and there's a lot of bad things about it. There's Trey Lance and, right? I mean, there's other ones. That Foster guy.
Maybe he was the brains behind those picks.
Yeah. So it's not either or, but he seems to have. I don't think he went to the meeting and said we didn't get worse. I think he said we got a hell of a lot better. That's what I think. And it makes me think that he may have been the engine that was driving the Niners in the draft.
I just like looking at where he took a wide receiver. He took one at the end of round 3, and you can say, well, they didn't need a wide receiver. Yeah, neither did the Niners.
Right. Iggy, tell the story again after they got murdered by whom, and you're walking in the hallway and 3 people come at you and only one looks at you.
I think it was after they lost to, I want to say, Cincinnati or Baltimore this year. Just murdered at home. And I was walking around doing my instant reaction where I walk in the, you know how I'm walking to the post-game press conference and I'm talking about what I saw?
You're in the hallway. You're in the hallway.
So I did one, but it was like 30 seconds in. It wasn't so good. So I walked back to do it again. And as I was walking back, I saw John Lynch and we made eye contact and he just looked away.
Was it just Lynch and Adam Peters?
Adam Peters looked at me.
He stared at you.
Not. Yes.
What I'm getting at is Lynch couldn't look you in the eye.
No.
Peters could.
Yes.
We got our ass kicked. I'm Adam Peters. I have confidence in what I do. I can look you in the eye. That's very important.
Yes.
I thought there was a third person there who couldn't look you in the eye.
I think it was Parag.
Yeah, he's not an eye looker.
No, not an eye looker.
Remember all the times we'd walk there to the locker room and we'd cross paths with Parag, and all of a sudden he'd get on his phone and not look at me.
I don't know if people in the audience do this, but do you guys ever play like the subject object game? Like you just look at someone and see who looks away first. It could be a stranger. Yeah. Who knows? Because you always have that moment with the human being where you lock eyes, and it's kind of awkward. And there's an impulse to either look away or not. And sometimes it's interesting to see if you can get someone to look away first. And Parag is the guy who looks away first every time.
He does.
Yeah. Because people who don't look away first are intimidating sometimes. They just look at you and you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's my thing.
When I used to deal with athletes, I would stare at them. I would make it clear who was the subject and who was the object.
Wouldn't you do that as a teacher too?
Absolutely. The first night of class, I would, it was, let's say, University of San Francisco, where I taught many years creative writing. There would only be 8 in the class. And I would be very friendly, and I would introduce myself around the table to each one, but I would stare, "Hi, I'm Lowell Cohn," and let it be known that I'm the leader here. I'm the subject, and you are the object, although I'm listening and open-minded. I don't think in my class there would have been tense and a revolt.
Nope. No, it's something very subconscious, but you got to be ready for it, because if I'm sitting front row, front and center at the Niners press conference and Kyle Shanahan is staring at me, I can't look away.
Right.
Can't.
And I told Iggy, you have to be front and center. I always was. And what it means is you have to deal with me. I'm not sitting in the back. I'm in the front. I'm right here with you. I'm as close as I could be. You got to deal with me, and you got to answer my questions.
Yeah, press man coverage.
Yeah, press man coverage.
Also, if you have a problem with me, I'm not ducking you. I'm right here.
Yeah, I'm right here. Say what you have to say.
So that's it. Adam Peters. That's it. Peterson.
Wait a minute, Peterson. Have you ever talked to Adam Peters?
Not much. A little bit. By the end, he would do the pre-draft press conference along with John Lynch. They would do it together. And he seemed very well-educated, smart. You know where he went to college? UCLA.
Oh, really?
UCLA. He played for them. He was like a defensive lineman.
Iggy, you're proud when people go to UCLA, right? The
It's
famous
a good
people.
school. Because here's the thing about UCLA. It's like impossible to get into. The acceptance rate is ridiculously low. And then when you get in, they treat you like you're nothing special and you have to work really hard just to get B's and A's. I mean, A's are really impossible, but to get B, because what I heard from Stanford is once you get in there, which is hard too, that they really treat you like you're special and everyone gets A's. I don't know if that's true though.
They really support you at Stanford. They do.
You didn't get support at UCLA, no support. And that's why I'm so tough these days. And people get scared when they see me because they're like, oh, that's the UCLA education. Yep.
At Stanford, they're very kind to you. And believe me, I needed it. There were a lot smarter people around there than I was. I needed it.
It was funny because at UCLA, we're all high achievers, kids that got 4.5s in high school. And then you go to UCLA and then get your first report card and half the kids in the class or 2/3 of the kids in the class got B's or below. And everyone's like, what? This doesn't happen to me. And the teacher's like, yeah, this is UCLA. You're all A students. It's not everyone's going to get A's here. So then you start seeing, like, by my sophomore year, I figured it out. Okay, I got to go to office hours. I got to introduce myself. I got to run my thesis by them. I got to get buy-in from them. There's all kind of stuff you got to do to get A's. It's hard. Well, or just take a math class and just be good at math. You could do that. I wasn't good at that. I was writing essays. That's hard. So that's my point. 808 Niner says Kyle doesn't address the needs because if he did, then what excuse would he have after he blows another 10-point lead in the Super Bowl?
Well, there's that. I don't know if I know his psychology well enough to say that, but it's plausible.
Right, because if you acknowledge that there's a problem and you try to fix it and you don't, then you're at fault. But if you just don't acknowledge that there's a problem, then you can just blame bad luck and injuries every time.
I want to say something about today's show, Iggy, and I hope I'm not out of line. I don't know if today's show is very good, but we didn't get worse.
I think it's fair to say that we did not get worse after today's show.
Yeah.
Did we push the medium forward today? I don't know about that. But did we get worse? Can't say that.
I don't think so.
No.
And that's my goal in life from now on.
Yeah. Fish and Chips says Marciano biggest will to win than any other ever.
Oh boy. Marciano, we're talking about Rocky Marciano, former heavyweight champion, threw the most famous right hand in the history of boxing when he knocked out Walcott with the right hand in the 13th round. You've seen that, Iggy. I've shown you that punch. Oh,
yeah.
Greatest right hand was that, and the greatest left hook was Ray Robinson knocked out. No, Ray Robinson, not Sugar Ray Robinson knocked out Gene Fullmer with a left hook. Most famous.
What about the shot that Hearns threw to knock out
Duran?
Yeah.
That was a right hand. That was great.
Right hand.
But he had already had him on the canvas. He had already been murdering Duran. Rocky may have been behind in that fight against
that's right.
Against Walcott.
That's right.
And he took him out with the one punch.
Who can forget where they were when that fight was going on, huh?
I never saw it in person. I was probably 2 years old, but I've seen it on. Listen, I got to tell you, I'm talkative today. I'm sorry. I'm not writing these days. I got a book out, which I don't think anybody's going to publish, but I'm not writing. So I spend my time doing I go on YouTube and I watch two things a lot. I watch old fights that I saw when I was 11, and it's very interesting. But I watch Judge Judy. I got to tell you, I love Judge Judy. She's got such a big mouth, and she puts people in their place, which I could never do. And by the end, she has a verdict. So it's all gets resolved. Now, Judge Judy, he's from my neighborhood in Brooklyn. It's called Flatbush. She went to Madison High School. She's, I think, a year older than me.
That's where Al Davis went, right?
No, he went to Erasmus. He went to Erasmus on Flatbush Avenue. She went to Madison on Bedford Avenue. I went to Midwood on Bedford Avenue.
Who else went to Madison?
Oh, Bernie Sanders.
Jeez.
Chuck Schumer. Carole King. Chris Rock.
Okay, there you go.
They all went to Madison. And Midwood, we got nobody. We got Woody Allen is the only one who
Woody.
went to Midwood. Woody.
He's kind of controversial.
I love Woody. I'm sorry. I love Woody. And his real name is Alan Konigsberg.
It's true. But since he's kind of canceled, you are now the most famous person that went to Midwood.
No, the Democratic leader of the House went to Midwood. I forgot his name.
Exactly. You forgot his name. Not famous.
Yeah, right. But in any event, so I spend my time watching old fights. I mean, endlessly, and Judge Judy. And what I thought is, she grew up Judy Blum, Blum, and she married this Shandline or whatever. But the things she says to people, you're a liar. She says things like that. And I'm thinking, whoa, she is so Brooklyn, Iggy.
Who would want to go on that show and get yelled at by her like that? Well, who chooses that?
Right. If you choose to go on her show, you get what you have coming.
Yeah. You can't come back from that as a human being. I mean, your friends would see that. Your family would see that. I don't understand how you do that.
Really?
Because you can't tell whose side she's going to come down on. She's a loose cannon, Dad. Dimitar Dimitrov says, Kyle, your dad is a great guy. God bless him.
Thank you, Dimitar.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I like him. Yeah. All right, you got anything else to talk about?
Yeah, tonight we're going out. We're going out to a nice restaurant because my granddaughter and Iggy's niece, Camila, it's her 12th birthday.
Right.
And we're all going out to celebrate. So shout out to Camila. And
shout out Camila, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, sweetheart. And we're going out as a en famille tonight.
En famille.
That's all I got, Iggy.
Me too. It wasn't our best show, but it definitely wasn't our worst. So I love that.
No, we didn't get worse. And that's all you could ask for in life.
Yeah. We maintained the level that we've achieved in the past, which is good. It's not even good. It's something.
It's something.
It's something. Dad, I love you.
I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon.